Good afternoon, everyone. We are back to the course. This is the fifth lecture. Until now, we have been discussing about the fundamentals of IKS, the Indian knowledge system, what comprises of Indian knowledge system. Then we discussed about the Vedic corpus. In fact, we discussed much beyond all this. In the introduction part, we have discussed about the ancient knowledge, how it is quantified, how we define the IKS, and what comprises of the IKS framework, the historicity of IKS, how old we can go or date back our knowledge system to. And then we started with the foundations. In the foundations, we have explored about the Vedic corpus, that is the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvana Veda. We have seen the details of the four Vedas, what they comprises of, and what they imply, what messages they give, etc. In the last week, we discussed about the further division of the Veda of the Brahmanas, Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishads. And we finally looked deep into the Upanishads of what different eminent people spoke about Upanishads. And we concluded the session. We shall start with the 6 Vedangas. This is where we stopped last time. We touched a little bit upon the Siksha, but we will enter into the 6 Vedangas now. To understand and decode the Veda, first of all, why should we decode? Because it is composed in such a manner that the way of composition is almost extinct right now. In today's world, we are mostly linear in our writings and compositions, but the Vedic literature was mostly non-linear. So we need certain keys to unlock the wisdom contained in the Vedas and the associated literature. So we discovered, or we framed, or we constructed what are known as Vedangas. Anga means a limb. So limbs of the Veda. Veda being orally transmitted, a sound knowledge on its sound is necessary to reproduce the utterance. Complete clarity is needed as to what the sentence of the Vedic text are conveying. A good knowledge of meters is very much important, as the whole Veda is realized in metric scales, that is prosody. Etymological science is also needed to extract the multidimensional depths of the Veda in order to apply to everyday life. Vedic lifestyle has yajna at its core, so a set of properly designed instructions to build the yajnashalas, performance of the rituals, etc. is very much needed. The placement of human soul in the context of cosmos and the existing symbiotic relationship must be explained thoroughly, and a purpose needs to be given to live harmoniously. These are the 6 factors based on which the 6 Vedangas have originated. These 6 Vedangas are none other than Siksha, which is the science of phonetics, Vyakarana, the science of grammar, Chandas, the science of prosody, Nirukta, the science of etymology, Kalpa, the science of rituals, and Jyotisha, the science of light or cosmic influence on the beings on the earth. Jyotisha comprises both astronomy and astrology. So astronomy means mathematics and physics, which become an integral part of Jyotisha. These 6 Vedangas are said to be the 6 limbs of Veda Purusha, or the Veda personified. A limb here means basically an organ that represents the function in terms of either understanding or application of it. The shloka from the Paniniya Siksha Panini is attributed to the Shiksha Sastra. So his work suggests the following shloka, which is Chandah Padautu Vedasya Hastau and so on. What it translates to in English is as follows. The Shiksha is the nose of the Veda, Vyakarana is the mouth of the Veda, Nirukta the ears of the Veda, Chandas the feet of the Veda, Kalpa the hands of the Veda, and Jyotisha the eyes of the Veda. Now the association of these limbs with the organs of a human body is not random. There is some secret, or there is some science, or there is some logic behind it. And the logic is as follows. Shiksha Sastra focuses on the way of utterance. Utterance of how long, how short, how high, how low. All these factors depend on the breathing that you do, and hence nose, which is the symbol of breathing element in your body that takes in the air and that pumps out the air, is said to be associated with the Shiksha. So if you remove Shiksha from the Veda, that means you're removing the breath out of the Veda, so the Veda dies. Which means without the knowledge of the Shiksha Shastra, one should never try to understand the Veda by dictionary meanings. And this is the wrongdoing of the Western translations, which has caused a lot of damage to our own pride and the continuity of the knowledge system. Then Vyakarana. Vyakarana means grammar, and grammar is like a steering wheel to a uttering statement, which is mouth, which utters forth the statements that come in our mind. So Vyakarana is the mouth of the Veda because it externalizes the ideas presented in the Veda in a more unambiguous way. If there is no Vyakarana, that means if I close my mouth, the conveying of ideas will not be possible. Similarly, without Vyakarana, the proper conveying of the ideas is not possible. Then we have Nirukta, which are associated with ears. Nirukta is basically the science of etymology, which means you go to the root of a word and try to understand the meaning beyond what meets the eye. So ears help you to recognize things when there is no light as well, which means they go beyond what meets the eye, and hence Nirukta is often compared to the ears of the Veda or Veda Purusha. Then we have Chandas. Chandas Shastra means the science of prosody or the meters. A meter gives a particular walk or a particular rhythm for the Veda. Like if you take two different poems composed in different meters, for example, if you take Saundarya Lahari's first shloka, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum Nache Devam Devo Nakala Kushala Spanditumapi. So there is a proper rhythm, but it is more of a stern kind of a rhythm there. But if you take the Shiva Tandava Stotram that I recited a bit in the last class, like Jataatavi Kalachwara Pravaha Pavitasthale Galevalam Yalambitam Bhujangatungramadikam. So that has a different rhythm, that has a different flow altogether. So based on the content that is to be conveyed, a rhythm is chosen. And without understanding what rhythm is being used, the meaning of the content or the intent behind the dictionary meaning of the words will be lost. So without chandas, imagine our life without feet. We have to crawl, and we can't walk or run or jump or hop as we wish. So chandas gives that flexibility to the Veda, which feet gives to a human being. Then we have Kalpa Shastra. Kalpa is the science of rituals. You do something. You do to enact the drama that is happening around you, to convey the drama and convey the philosophy behind the drama. And that is compared to the hands of the Veda, because hands Imagine a classical dance and without hands. So the much you can do is only with the feet and taps, but not with the different mudras you can do with the hands and different conveying you do. Hands form one of the primary organs in the abhinaya or the expression in the dance. Similarly, in the Veda, the Kalpa Shastra makes you practicalize the theoretical knowledge that you have. Jyotisha. Jyotisha are often compared to eyes because it is science of light, obviously, because as much as you can hear, as much as you can walk, as much as you can do with the hands, eyes are very much important to understand the nature around you from a distance itself. Sarvendriyanam Nayanam Pradhanam, they say, which means out of all the Indriyas, the eyes takes the predominant role. Similarly, Jyotish Shastra takes the predominant role in all of the Veda. Remember that in the Veda, all these 6 angas are mixed harmoniously and existing. But there are certain authors or sages who have specializedly written some works on the aspects of these things, which means when you study these shastras separately, you will understand the intermixing nature of these shastras in the Veda and try to separate layer by layer to go to the core of the Veda. That is the whole purpose of Vedanga knowledge. So Panini says, only the one who knows the Veda through all of its 6 limbs, the Siksha, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chandas, Kalpa, and Jyotisha, will attain the truth of Brahman, which is the subject of the Veda, as extolled in the Veda. So this is the basic introduction to the 6 Vedangas. The very first Vedanga we have is Shiksha Shastra. Here I have given a small picture which shows different regions in your oral cavity from lips to the throat, including the nasal cavity. The reason is the science of phonetics in India is much refined compared to the science developed anywhere else in the ancient times because of the proper organization of these sounds, proper categorization of origin of the sounds. So when we meditate or when you focus on the origin of sounds, your utterance will become much refined, much sharp, much precise, which gives much clarity to the science of the Veda. After all, Veda is an orally transmitted tradition. So the utterance through your vocals is one of the primary traits you need to get trained in before becoming a teacher in the Veda. The premise or the fundamental theme is that the nada generates at subtle level, directing the gross physical organs to vibrate the air column within the vocals. To generate audible sounds. Concept in the first lecture, I believe, where I told Chatvari Vak Parimita Padani Tani Vidul Brahmana Ye Manishinaha Guhatrini Nihitani Gayanti Turiyam Vacho Manusha Vadanti. That means the 3 stages of utterance are always hidden inside the guha or the heart of a human. Only the one part, the 4th part, the Vaikari Vak, is being uttered 4th by us. So before utterance, everything exists as a subtle sound inside us, which then creates the signals of neural currents to our vocal cords. Then they vibrate accordingly, the tongue articulates accordingly, and that is how the sound is generated. So the tongue acts as a key plug, touching at different spots in the oral cavity to produce the many words and sentences we have. Nasika. The first category of sounds we have are called nasika. That means something related to nose. So a nasal effort is much needed in these syllables or letters or aksharas, you can call. The nasal efforts are for nya, nya, na, and ma. All these require nasal effort. So whenever you get cold or whenever your nose is blocked, the words which involve these nasal efforts will be sounding differently, which doesn't convey all the meaning to the listener. Then we have murdha, which means upper palate. Now you can pronounce these and check which region is upper palate, which is r, t, ta, da, tha, ana, ra, and sha. For all these, you have an upper palate touching of the tongue so as to utter them correctly. Then we have oshtau, which means lips. The letters u, pa, tha, ba, bha, ma, all these require your lips in uttering the word. If you try to utter them without the conjoining of the lips or shaping out the lips, like without joining of lip, we can't even utter. Therefore, to know that these syllables exist at this location will keep on sending message to your inner learning center that, okay, this has to be pronounced, for which I need to conjoin the lips. I need to touch the upper palate. I need to use the nasal effort. So this is the science that Panini categorized in a very beautiful logical manner. Then we have tantaha. There's a very beautiful aspect here. Try to utter the word danta. Imagine to utter the word danta without the teeth. You can't utter the word itself. Like danta needs the teeth support to utter the word. So in Sanskrit, you will see that many a time a word uttered represents the physical meaning as the object of the word by the very way of design of the word. Okay. Like nasika, the word na itself is nasal effort sound, hence it is nasika. In the murdha, without the upper palate, you can't utter the word murdha. Like that, oshtau, like o, that also required the lip shaping. Danta needed the teeth support, hence the teeth. In this way, the association of logic with Sanskrit, of the physical meaning, the object, the design, the context, everything harmoniously sinks into one single thread. Then you have talu. So kantha are the section of the letters which associate with a, ka, kha, ga, kha, and ha. To utter any word or letter, we have three factors of time associated with it. We call them the temporal factors. Haraswa means a very short utterance like a, I, ka, etc. Then we have dirgha. Dirgha means elongated. Elongated, not too much, but long, like in between. Like I. That's how we start learning the Varnamala when we were kids. The second of these vowels, like I, U, these are the dirgha swaras, we say. Then we have pluta, an elongated exclamation which occurs in a very specific context, like, oh my God, when we say that, there is a much elongation happening. Like that in Sanskrit, in specific context, we give elongated or pluta swaras. Then we have the pitch factor. The pitch means, in physics, the frequency of the sound characterizes is characterized by the pitch. So the pitch gives you udatta, the very high pitch, anudatta, the lower pitch, and swarita, a combination of both, which exists in the medium tone. Based on this, the whole Veda swaras exist. For example, if you hear the Agni Sukta, the very first Suktam of the Rig Veda, Agnimi ile purohitai. So there is a upper, there is a lower, there is an elongation, there is a shorten. All the combinations put together give you the utterance of the shloka. Are these important? Let's see. Panini says, gives instructions to us as to how to utter. Vyagre yatha haret putran tamstrabhyam cha na pidaye Bhita patanadedabhyam tadvat varnan prayojayet. Unlike the modern science, in the ancient representation of science, always an example is given so that we understand the instruction much better. Here, Panini is saying that just like a tiger carries her cub with her teeth, firm grip, and yet no pain, one must utter the syllables in the same way, delicately but firmly. No, is everything okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just like a tiger carries her cub with her teeth, have you ever seen a tiger or a cat carrying? We call this Marjala Nyaya, Marjala Kishora Nyaya, which means there are some animals which carry their cubs with their teeth and go. There is also Markata Kishora Nyaya, like if you see Markata means monkey. It is a responsibility of the baby monkey to hold on to the mother or father so that it doesn't follow. But here, Panini instructs us of to look at the Marjala Kishora Nyaya, which is how a tiger carries her cub with her teeth. It doesn't impart pain, but still the cub doesn't fall off the teeth. Wherever the tiger wants to take her cub, it goes there. Similarly, you should be as delicate and firm at the same time when you're uttering a syllable in Sanskritam of the Veda. So letters must be lucid. Sounds should not be blurred. Sound should not slip away, fade away, or barked out. They should not loosely or casually mouth, and so on and so forth. There are many rules that are given as to how to utter. So learning Sanskrit doesn't mean to just sit in a classroom and learn the normal letters and syllables. You need to go to a proper trained Vedic scholar or person to know all the delicate aspects of utterance, because even a slight change will cause some difference to the meaning and the effect that is to be imparted. In the same Panini Siksha, Panini says, Anaksharam Patayushyam Vishwaram Vyadhipiditam Akshata Chatrashrupen Vajram Patati Mastake. That means if some of the consonants in a mantra are deleted, then they destroy life. If the vowels are faulty, then disease sets in. The wrongly consecrated rice, the akshata that we say, right? In the puja time, we consecrate our rice with turmeric or vermilion or with mantras. If you wrongly consecrate with not proper utterances, then they descend upon the head of the host like a thunderbolt or the Vajrayuda of Indra. Basically, this is to say that it's like a cautionary statement. You should be very careful. Why? If you wrongly utter, it might cause all these things that he's saying, whether it is exaggeration or whether it is believed or whether it is the truth. one thing is very clear, that one should take utmost care in utterance. No negligence or no carelessness is to be heeded at the juncture of your utterance. In fact, there is a story associated with this utterance thingy. In the Vedas, they give a reference to this story. Mantrohina swarato varnato va mithya prayukto na tamarthamaha sava vachro yajamanam hinasti yatendra shatruhu swarato paradhat. That means the mantra without proper pronunciation of vowels and consonants makes it faulty and does not convey the intended meaning. Not only that, instead it gets converted into a verbal thunderbolt and harms the one chanting it, as had occurred in the case of word Indrashatru with faulty pronunciation of the vowels. That means this Indrashatru is the reference story. What is the story? Once upon a time, there lived a deity called Tvashta. Due to some reasons, he was very angry with Indra. You all know Indra, right? The lord of all the devas. I mean, you not know of Indra, the correct thing. So he couldn't defeat Indra. What did he want? He wanted us to beget a son who could defeat Indra. What he does? He does penance. He does a homa and utter some mantras, which he wanted to mean that I want to beget a son who would grow up to kill Indra. But because of the wrong stress of the words uttered in his mantrocharana, the son grows up to be killed by Indra. So that's the story that the Veda is referring to suggest how careful one must be in the Veda mantras. So Tvashta wanted a son capable of killing Indra and hence performed a homa. Homa means a fire sacrifice. And he utters a word called Indra Shatrur Vatrashva. Now, the correct way that he should have actually pronounced it as the Indra in the Indra Shatru should be in even tone. That means Indra. And the Tru in the Shatru should be high. Shatru. And Vatrashva should be high. Vatrashva. Therefore, Indra, Shatru, Vatrashva. That should have been the way of utterance, which would have meant let Tvashta's son grow up to kill Indra. But due to the wrong way, what did he utter? The Dra in Indra was raised, but the Shatru was said evenly, and the Tha in the Vatrashva was lowered, which meant let Tvashta's son grow up to be killed by Indra. And hence, that was the fate of the Tvashta's son. Then how do we know which one to be accented, which one to be lowered, which one to be in the normal? Panini in his grammar, the Vyakarana, and the Panini in the Siksha Shastra almost gives like 400 rules as to how different accensions to the swaras give different meanings. Without knowing this, we translate a mantra into English and we say, this is all nonsense. Well, we Indians did not know anything. We were all living a barbaric life. If such statements are uttered by only those who do not know all this science, who would have thought in the modern world that even the tone of a word could be pregnant with a different set of meanings? So that made the Veda much compact. Therefore, when you try to open the packet of the Veda, it gives you plethora of dimensions in understanding the secrets of nature or what they wanted to try to convey us. So that the summary about the Shiksha Sastra, which is the science of phonetics. Then we have Vyakarana, the science of grammar. As I said, grammar is very much important. I did not go too deep in these slides, but if you go to, I have written an article in my blog in regarding to this thing, where I show how the origin of grammar itself is dependent on the rules or the natural principles that we see around. So Vyakarana is not, you can say it's partly natural and partly constructed by us, more in resonance with the natural phenomenon. So grammar is a foundation of any language. Like we say karta, karma, kriya is the fundamental trinity in the grammar. But in real life also that is the case, right? There is always a doer, there is always a done, and there is always a process of doing. This trinity cannot be escaped in our life, which means even in grammar you can't escape. In fact, the whole creation is said to be a grammatically precise story uttered by God, in the sense that what you observe in the creation are the elements of grammar that we have discovered. So Panini's Ashtadhyayi gets most of the credit in the grammar, and in that he gives a very beautiful set of rules. In fact, Panini's grammar is so fascinating that researchers are in the Western world and in our country are still being done as to what else could the Panini's grammar imply than what meets the eye. What actually Vyakarana means? Karana means to do something. So Vya means to expand or to divide, separate, analyze, and then expand. So Vyakarana expands on the division, separation, and the analysis of each and every aspect of a sentence and a word. And Sanskrit is precise and rule-based, and hence very logical in constructing a word. Lot of scope to construct new words as per the need and necessity. If you ever wondered some of the words in English, you'll see that they don't follow what you would think would be the way. For example, I say I'm watering the plants. It means I'm pouring water onto the roots of the plants. But if you say I'm dusting the board, you do not mean pouring the dust over the board. You're removing the dust from the board. So there is a sense of illogical or sense of disharmony to your common sense, we can say. And relative to that, now you go to Sanskrit's grammar. It is most precise, and you would be, if you know Sanskrit grammar, you would be able to construct many very unique set of literature pieces. I'll be showing one of it, which can be called the pride of India per se. But not only that, and there are many thousands of such things in Sanskrit because the grammar of Sanskrit gives such flexibility and logical rigidity to the structure of the language. So if I want to construct a new word based on a phenomenon, I go to the root of the phenomenon, check for the root words. From the root words, develop to the family of the words, and from the family, construct based on the grammatical rules as to what word would occur. I think if you have the textbook of the IKS, then the chapter on linguistics, chapter 5 in the textbook, shows how the computational concepts in Ashtadhyayi and the binary systems and the Panini's grammar in terms of logical construction of a sentence, etc., are in a very unique and different class altogether. You should read that 5th chapter. It's very interesting in the textbook. Anyways, yeah, the lot of scope to construct new words as per the need and necessity is there. Also, you can reverse engineer to break and analyze the birth and development of words. Like last time I have told, like Ashwa, the word also means horse, but it also means that which has no tomorrow or no yesterday. So present, continuity, foreverness, or the infinite. that kind of analysis comes only from knowing the Vyakarana aspects of the reverse engineering aspects of the grammar. Vyakarana structure parallels to what has been applied in modern day data processing. That means it has all the elements: list-based processing logic, algorithmic approach to process language, and application of recursive logic to process data. List-based processing logic means you have a list of words, like basically the categories of kind of words that you have, which are called dhatus or the root words. Now, based on the list, you create an algorithm as to how to generate different words in different sentences. Recursive logic of processing data means based on certain theme, you enter a step in your algorithm. If something is being repeated, you go back and see for differences and try to follow a different chain of tree. So this is called the recursive logic to process the data. The data processing in the current world is exactly this thing. And imagine few thousands of years ago, Panini has constructed the grammar in this precision. Okay, those who have been worried about the English grammar in your childhood school, if you have been taught the Panini's grammar, I would say with wholehearted clarity that you would have become more precise in your grammar knowledge than what the English would have been teaching you, because the set of English grammatical rules could be subset of Panini's grammar because it goes to the root of analysis of the human language. And as I pointed out in the Shiksha section, that Panini gave rules of intonation. Even a slight change in the tone, the meaning of the word will change. Therefore, 400 out of 4,000 sutras or the rules that he gave, he dedicated it to the aspect of the intonating element. So not only the visual structure, the tonal structure is very much important in the grammar, which is very unique to India. So that is grammar for us. And if you want to know more about Sanskrit beauty, one paper you can visit is by Dr. James Hartzell. He's a German neuroscientist who gave the term Sanskrit effect in around 2018. Basically, what he did MRI scans of some of the Vedic Pandits, and he saw that the memorizing of ancient mantras increased the size of the brain regions associated with the cognitive functions. And in that paper, he beautifully puts the methodology of his research and how the Sanskrit effect or learning Sanskrit or memorizing Sanskrit shlokas gave health benefits along with other things. Now, one might often in the modern day world argue for nutritional effects, you need to eat all kinds of foods. But if you go and look at the lifestyles of the Vedic Pandits, let's say, they do not eat the non-vegetarian food, they are purely vegetarian. Most of them, of course, in the Bengal side and others, they do eat meat and all. A different sect of people have different diet habits, of course. But to say not eating meat will shorten your life or you'll get less nutrients, with that statement of the modern day nutritionist, go back to these Vedic people or Vedic Pandits and see their average life spans. You'll see people at 90 years, 100 years still reciting the Veda in the Kashi and Mathura and those regions. So from where how are they living for those many years? It is this, the brain. There is another research in the neuroscience, which I was very much interested once upon a time. But I don't remember the author's articles, but I did read a lot in that genre, that the memory, the more the memory you have in the brain, the longer the lifespan could be very possible. And the art of memorizing the Veda, you can see the Vedic Pandits reciting all the 10,000, 20,000 mantras without book in their hands. And they not only do in a linear fashion, they have many to and fro motions called the Kramapata, Ghanapata, Padapata, etc., which make the whole Veda not 20,000 mantras, but 40,000, 50,000 mantras altogether. So memorizing all that is not a small task, but we humans did do that feat. And that was the reason for the longevity, I feel. And still researches are need to be done in this area. But this is one aspect we can say the Sanskrit has in its under its sleeve. There is a scientist called Rick Briggs in NASA. So what he says, read the second paragraph. This dichotomy, which has served as premise underlying much work in the areas of linguistics and artificial intelligence, is a false one. What is the premise? The premise is that there is a widespread disbelief that natural languages are unsuitable for the transmission of many ideas that artificial languages can render with great precision and mathematical rigor. But he says, Rick Briggs says, in his own words, here you can see, there is at least one language, Sanskrit, which for the duration of almost 1,000 years, well, he knows of 1,000 years, but we know that it is more than 5,000, 6,000 years, was a living spoken language with a considerable literature of its own. Besides works of literary value, there was a long philosophical and grammatical tradition that has continued to exist with undiminished vigor until the present century. Among the accomplishments of the grammarians can be reckoned a method for paraphrasing Sanskrit in a manner that is identical not only in essence, but in form with the current work in artificial intelligence. What is it? Among the accomplishments of the grammarians can be reckoned a method for paraphrasing Sanskrit in a manner that is identical not only in essence, but in form with current work in artificial intelligence. So this article demonstrates the natural language can serve as an artificial language also, and that much work in artificial intelligence has been reinventing the wheel millennia old. I think this summarizes the greatness of the Sanskrit and suggests how the modern day scientist is reinventing what Panini and others have already discovered in constructing the language. And the paper, you can note down this paper if you want more details. It is in the AI magazine 1985, Rick Briggs from NASA. Those who are interested can go deep and study. One of the greatest things that I loved with Sanskrit and I wanted to present is a palindromic kavya or a piece of literature. What is a palindrome? In English, a palindrome is basically like Malayalam. You read left to right or right to left, the word remains the same. And people get pride in asking what is the biggest palindrome that is in English. And then maybe it is this big line, and they're very much happy that they know so much already in English and that English is such a wonderful language. Of course it is. I'm using that language to convey the ideas. But compared to Sanskrit, I think it's a baby. The reason is, in Sanskrit, based on the without deviating from the grammatical rules, from the Nirukta rules, from the dictionary rules, and without reading the rules, there are many compositions which give you variety of things to you. One of such compositions I have taken as an example, which is called Raghava Yadaviyam, written by Venkatadwari Kavi around 17th century. Now, what does it do? You read there are 30 shlokas in this Raghava Yadaviyam. Every shloka you read from left to right or right to left, it remains the same. That is one aspect. So every shloka is a palindrome. Not only that, you read from left to right, breaking in certain way the words. It gives you the story of Ramayana. From right to left, you go breaking in certain ways. It gives you the story of Krishna in the Bhagavata. That is why it is called Yadaviya, because the story of the Yadus. I don't think this kind of feat exists in any other language. One to be a palindromic big piece without destroying the rules of grammar, and the other conveying two different stories in one shloka itself. If you see the first one, it says, Vandeham Devam Tam Shritam Rantaram Kalam Bhasayah Ramaha Ramadhihi Apyagah Leelam Ar Ayodhye Vase. If you see and reverse this, what do you get? Sevadhyeyo Ramalali Gopyaradhi Mara Moraha Yestabhalankaram Taram Tam Shritam Vandeham Devam. So is it not the reverse of what you have got? So the first one says, I pay my obeisance to Lord Sri Rama, who returned to Ayodhya after killing Ravana and sported with his consort Sita in Ayodhya for a long time. I bow to Lord Krishna, who is contemplated by penance and sacrifice, who plays with Rukmini and other consorts, who is worshipped by the gopis, whose chest is the sporting field of Lakshmi, and who is adorned with radiant ornaments. This is the very first shloka of the Raghava Yadaviyam. Okay. So you read from right to left, left to right, you get the same shloka, but different meanings, one of Rama, one of Krishna. There is also another one, Ramakrishna Viloma Kavyam of 40. You read from left of the first shloka till the right, you will get one story. Right of the first shloka to the first, you will get another story of Krishna. There is also Dvyarthi Kavya, written by one of the poets in the Sri Krishna Devaraya period in his Asthana. That gives you the same shloka, not reading left and right, but the same words having dual meanings, right? Like every word has dual meanings or triple meaning. Taking different meanings for the same shloka gives you again the different story. So such feats have been done in Sanskrit, for which it must be the greatest of all the languages we have in the world. Further, okay, that is Nirukta. This is the science of etymology. Previously, we have discussed about Vyakarana. Now we are going into etymology. Vyakarana means dealing with the divisional structure of the statements and constructions of the words, etc. But Nirukta is etymology. It focuses on the birth and propagation of words. So Nirukta is etymological science which extracts the meaning of a word using the predefined set of linguistic rules and phonetic changes. Yaska is credited for the work on Nirukta. Doesn't mean he invented Nirukta. Whatever the science of Nirukta was already there, permeating the Veda, Yaska squeezed it out into a set of rules. That's what we need to understand as. And he also made a commentary on Nighantu, on the rarely used words of the Veda. Nighantu means dictionary, Nirukta means etymology. The need for Nirukta arises because different dimensions associated with the same word in the Veda exist. Without Nirukta, you do not know which association is to be taken to which word, which means there are high chances we will misinterpret and misrepresent the Veda. And the organization of Nighantu by Yaska is as follows. This is a technical detail I just gave for formalism. The Nighantu has 3 adhyayas and total number of words dealt are as given, and the consonants, different names, different groups, variety of things are there. Then you have Naigama, words with multiple meanings in the 3 groups, and Daivata, names of the Devatas in the 3 groups. So this clarifies to us as to how to approach the Veda. Swami Dayanand Saraswati of, I think, Arya Samaj, he commented upon the Veda using Nirukta as the key. So if you go into the Sanskrit works of his, you will see that he commented on the Veda using the Nirukta as the main theme beyond the translation and interpretation. What are the risks in translating Veda without knowing the Nirukta? Let's take this shloka from Tandya Brahmana. Basically, the shloka is Yavadvai Sahasram Gava Uttradhara Ityahus Tavadasmat Lokat Swarko Loka Iti Tasmad Ahuhu Sahasrayaji Vaiman Lokan Prapnoti. So a Dutch scholar, W. Callan, translates, the world of heaven is as far removed from this world, they say, as 1,000 cows are standing one above the other. Therefore, they say, he who sacrifices with a sacrifice at which 1,000 dakshinas are given reaches these worlds. Now, anyone with the same mind can not associate such a meaning to the shloka because, first of all, this is from Brahmana. Brahmana deals with explaining the Veda associated to it, to which it is associated. And what does it mean by 1,000 cows standing over the other? First of all, that is a very small length. Even if you consider 1,000 cows standing over the other, that is not the heaven's dimensions or where it is. Heaven here could mean space or sky. So it's a wrongly translated word. The reason is the Gava word in the shloka, this scholar, so-called scholar, has associated with the name cow. Now, this is what people have done onto our literature. It's like they don't know anything about our literature. They don't know the ABCs of our literature, yet everyone tries to comment in their own limited lens and bring the disglory for our science. And then they themselves conclude that, yeah, Indians don't know anything. That is where I get little hurt in the sense. Being patriotic and being associated with the Vedic things for a long time, I pity those, first of all, who do not understand it properly. And I condemn those who approach it without proper training. Anyways, that's a personal thing. But coming to academic formality, you can easily say that the works of this author, whoever has translated, could be meaningless because he did not know the proper association of the words. But if you go to Nirukta, there are set of meanings given to the word go, and the Yaska says the word in the Veda, cow, the word go can mean the earth, an animate object, because the root word comes from gacha. Gacha means to move. So when planets move, we call gochara. And in Hindi also we say gaon, right? The village. Basically, village is where all the dynamism happens. Everyone moves here, there, to the field, to come to homes, then to temples, and all the movement happens. So the word go, the ga root relates to the movement on one side. So it comes from the root gaon, to move. In this mantra, one can take go not to move because there is nothing moving as such, but it can be taken as earth. Now, if you place 1,000 earths stacked to one over the other, don't you think you will be reaching the intermediate space that is surrounding the earth? That could be called as heaven or swarga or whatever. At least we got a starting point as to what the author is trying to imply. With the translation go as cows, that's it, gone case. We are sitting there ideally not knowing what the author is trying to say. So what, one cow is standing on the other and the other is standing on the other. Are the cows doing gymnastics or what? No, right? In that sense, we should not approach the Veda without knowing Nirukta. And by knowing Nirukta, you can get a clearer meaning as to what the slokas are trying to convey to us. Hence, it is very risky to translate or read the English translation of the Veda of foreign authors. If at all one wants to read the English translation, I personally recommend the translation of Professor R.L. Kashyap, about whom we spoke in the very first or second lecture, whom India has awarded with Padma Shri, and he being the emeritus professor in Computers Network and also a Vedic scholar, he translated all the Veda using the keys of Nirukta and other keys we are studying currently. So his translations can be relied upon with more accuracy than the Western translations that we have of Wilson and all. Then we go to another key called Chandas. What does Chandas means? It is science of prosody. let's say you sit in a beautiful beach area. You're looking at a sunset or moonlight. You're having a very overwhelming feeling. Now you want to put all that feeling into words. You just can't write a prose, right? If you write a prose, okay, I'm sitting in the beach is looking good, the sky is orange, the sun is setting. There's no feeling there. It's all like a machine reading your daily routine to without any heart. At the same thing, if someone, like if you go to Oscar Wilde's poetry, or you go to Kalidasa's poetry, in fact, in India, or you go to Bhavabhuti's poetry, or Valmiki's depiction of Ayodhya and other places in the Ramayana, you'll see there is a beautiful tone or rhythm, and there is a feeling also conveyed along with the rhythm. So to express the inner feeling of a thing, you definitely need chandas. So the main Vedic text is almost is poetry form, and hence it has prosody. Therefore, meters are inescapable thing for us when we enter the Veda. And meter gives a specific rhythmic structure based on the context and content to be revealed in the mantra. And there is a whole combinatorics science involved with the chandas. There is a book by Samskrita Bharati on the combinatorics of Sanskrit. I forgot the title, something related to that, searched in Google. You will see it's a very big book trying to convey the math of combinatorics, combinatorics like the permutations and combinations. The whole math is also taught in the Chandas Shastra because Chandas Shastra utilizes that combination of syllables and other things to form the meters. Pingala sage is attributed to the Chandas Shastra. The modern dating says 3000 BCE, could be much earlier also. The whole Chandas Shastra can be broken down into 3 categories: syllable, pada, and meter. Syllable means akshara, a word. Pada means a line. Meter means a set of lines. So the Chandas Shastra, in the Veda, mostly we see the following Chandases. They are the Gayatri Chandas, Ushnik Chandas, Anushtup Chandas, Brihati Chandas, Pankti Chandas, Trishtup Chandas, and Jagati Chandas. There are many more. These are the, you can say, as a major Chandases we have. Out of which Gayatri, as you can see, has 3 padas. That means it has 3 lines, and each line has 8 syllables. Our famous, the Gayatri mantra or the Savitri mantra, which is Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Saviturvarenyam. You remove the Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha and read from Om Tat Saviturvarenyam. It has 3 lines, and each line has 8 syllables. So totally there will be 24 syllables. That is why, though it is a Savitri mantra, the deity is the sun god or solar deity. Because of the Chandas, it gets the name, the Gayatri mantra. Actually, the Gayatri is the name of Chandas. Similarly, Ushnik has 3 lines. In the 3 lines, the division of the syllables is 8 plus 8 plus 12. Anushtup has 4, and each line has 8 syllables. Brihati has 4. First 2 lines 8, third line 12, fourth line 8. Pankti means 5, so it has 5 lines. It has, Pankti is related to with Pancha, 5. And it has, each line has 8 syllables. Trishtup has 4 lines with 11 syllables, and Jagati has 4 lines with 12 syllables. The 3-level hierarchy, as you can see, one mantra we'll take as an example. That is Swadishthaya Madishthaya Pavasvaso Madharaya Indraya Patave Sutaha. This is from Rigveda. Swadishthaya Madishthaya Pavasvaso Madharaya Indraya Patave Sutaha. Which meter is it in? It is in Gayatri meter. How many lines are there? 3 lines. Swadishthaya Madishthaya Pavasvaso Madharaya Indraya Patave Sutaha. Now divide it into basic syllables. Swa, Dish, tha, ya, ma, ti, like that, keep on breaking. Totally, you will get 24 syllables. This is how the chandas in the Veda is composed. Or sorry, the Vedic mantras are composed in a particular chandas. This is only one example. There are many more examples. If you go to Essentials of Rigveda book of Professor R.N. Kashyap, he gives many meters and many examples of poems in such meters. Now, there is a story related to Valmiki as to how, after the Vedic period, the very first shloka in Sanskrit was composed in a metrical form for a story based or a itihasa based, not the Veda based. Of course, Ramayana is Veda based. What I mean is the author is composing based on a historical and mystical nature, not as a revelation, but as a site or you can say he's a part of the contemporary period and composing it, and he first utilized a metrical form for a literary piece. The story goes as follows. There are two Krauncha Pakshis, the birds sitting, and you can say they are expressing love towards each other on the branch. Then there is a hunter who, without noticing that they are mating, he shoots the arrow on one of the birds and the bird dies. At the same instant, Valmiki, along with his disciples, is actually completing his Sandhya Vandana in the Darghya Pradhana in the ocean, and he's coming back, the river main. He saw this episode, and then he saw the other bird, the female bird, crying or hovering around the male bird's body out of the sadness that it left or it died. Seeing that pitiful sight, Valmiki unintentionally utters the following shloka. He says, Ma nishada pratishtham tvam agama shashwatihi samaha yat krauncha mithuna ekam avadhihi kama mohitam. And he doesn't know what he utters until he uttered. He automatically utters because from his heart a feeling pushed forth into a particular metrical form. The literal translation means, O hunter, you killed one of the Krauncha pair who were in great love with each other. For this same reason, you may not live long in this world for the act you have committed. But Valmiki was never of a aggressive person. He never scolded or did a shapa or you can say curse anyone. He was wondering, what is this thing that came through me? It seems like a curse, literally, but I haven't cursed anyone until now. So does it mean anything else? As he contemplates, he realizes this means also something else. The inner meaning is as follows. If you associate the meanings as I have given there, Ma Lakshmi, Nishada, this who takes the seat as chest of Vishnu, Tvam, you, Shashwati Sama, forever, Pratishtham Agama, will earn eternal glory, yet because Krauncha Mithuna Dekam, one of the infatuated couple who is Ravana, Avadhi, kill Kama Mohitam, who kidnapped due to lust. That is, oh, the one who bears goddess Lakshmi in his chest, Lord Vishnu, having killed the infatuated male of the couple, Ravana. Among the couple Ravana and Mandodari, Rama killed Ravana. And therefore, your glory will remain eternal. Which means, though the episode was of a curse, it gave the starting point to the start of Ramayana, because this in quintessence is the birth of story of Ramayana. That means he knows the story of Ramayana, but he praised Lord Vishnu for blessings and uttered about what Rama has done and how that is a good act for the benefit of the whole society, whole world. In that way, a chandas was also attributed to not only the Vedic side, after the Vedas, the Puranas, Itihasas, etc., were also composed in some of the Chandas. That was about the Chandas. Now, Kalpa, the science of ritual. In simple terms, Kalpa is the user manual that practically guides in the application of the Vedic tenets in personal, familial, and social lives. This is a practical key for the Veda. If you have a manual for a helicopter, how to ride, or maybe you can say drone as to how to ride, but you do not have the drone, but just a manual, what is the use? By reading manually, you just cannot ride the drone. Now you need the drone and you need to apply the instructions learned. Similarly, learning the Veda doesn't just imply sitting and reading the Veda like this. Learning the Veda means application of the Vedic tenets in practical life. In simple terms, Kalpa is a manual which helps you practicalize that theoretical learning that you gain by studying the Veda and the associated keys and literature. The Kalpas can be categorized into the following. One, Shraut Sutras. They guide the Vedic rituals. Shrauta means that you hear, or the Vedic hymns that you hear. So these are the rituals like homas, fire rituals, and other rituals are there. The 4 rituals that are told are like Agnihotra, Darsapurnimasa, Chaturmasa, and Somayagas, and all these are different kinds of rituals that are recommended for different purposes. Then you have Shulba Sutras. These are the rules for measurements and construction of the altar. It is in Shulba Sutras that you find the theorems of Pythagoras theorem, the other theorems on circles and measures, triangles and measures, and whatnot. In our future lectures, I'll be dedicating some of the sections to the mathematics and sciences in the Vedas. That is when we'll be touching upon these topics. Then we have Grihya Sutras, that means something to do within the household. You might have heard about Satyanarayana Swami Vratam, or the house Griha Pravesha Puja, when you housewarming ceremony, house entering ceremony, and marriage ceremonies. All these come under Grihya Sutras. Then you have Dharma Sutras for congregational activities of social duties. These are the 4 categories of rituals that are taught by the Kalpa. Then going to Jyotisha, the science of light. Jyotisha is the knowledge of movement of stars, the planetary bodies, and their observed influence on the lives of the beings on the earth. Like if you observe during the different phases of the moon, you will see the biological kingdom has certain blossoming, certain reproductive elements getting started or getting numbed based on the different phases of the moon. There is an association. In that sense, not only the moon, the planetary bodies and the canopy of stars or their placements, whatever, has the influence on the earth is what is the proposition of Jyotisha. In India, all the ceremonial events, festival, etc. are intimately related to the relative position of sun, moon, and constellations as observed from the earth. Like if you want to marry, if you want to start a new construction, if you want to start a new, even let's say, if you think this is unscientific, even to construct a scientific laboratory, whoever has to do the Shankusthapana or the Bhumi Puja, they will see the Muhurta. So it is an intimately related thing into our culture. Whether the truth or not is for you to decide based on your understanding and your exploration. But in terms of IKS paradigm, we have to understand that this is a truth as per the understanding of the whoever has developed these sciences go, and hence we move forward based on that premise. Lagadha is the sage who is attributed to the Vedanga Jyotisha, that is Jyotisha related to Vedanga. It's a monumental work, and after careful study and understanding of Vedic life, he has compiled and squeezed everything into his Vedanga Jyotisha manual. Even Balagangadhar Tilak has written on Vedanga Jyotisha. You might also want to read that. That's an interesting book as well. Jyotisha is divided into three parts: Siddhanta, Samhita, and Hora. Siddhanta means the Ganita or the math part and the Gola or the movement parts, etc. Samhita deals with the Naimitta, the omens, Muhurta, the auspicious times, and other things. The Hora, it deals with Jataka, the influence, Prashna, the question and answers, and other astrological aspects. The topics dealt in the Jyotisha range from one end to the other end of a beautiful spectrum. Various measurements of time are discussed. Planetary theories, how are planets and stars formed, etc. are discussed. Arithmetical calculations of the planetary motions, the nodal motions, the retrograde motions of Mercury and other planets as it looked from the Earth, and other things are computed very precisely. Algebraic processes, location of Earth in the vast cosmos, the stars, the planets, their descriptions and usage of astronomical instruments. And if you go to your Jantar Mantar in Jaipur, you will see many astronomical instruments used for this purpose of positioning the Earth in the space and the space with respect to the Earth. In that way, we have not only just on a fluke, it's not that we have just told everything in fluke. We, other than telling, we have given a proper scientific instrumental measurement based approach to our theoretical pronunciations, or you can say theoretical aphorisms. Yeah. So as I said, Jyotisha is categorized as Siddhanta, Samhita, Hora. Siddhanta has Ganita and Gola, Samhita has Nimitta and Muhurta, Hora has Jataka and Prashna. And as you can see, the breadth of topics discussed in Samhita, for example, Daivatnya Lakshanam, that means qualities of an astrologer. First, who can be astrologer? Not any roadside person can become an astrologer. You need certain qualities. You should have been following certain rites, certain way of lifestyle to become an astrologer. Here, astrologer doesn't only mean a predictive person. All that we have discussed in the Jyotisha as Vedanga, that person is the astrologer. Here, the English word means. Grahanam Chara Vicharaha, that means planetary movements. Bhukampolkadi Lakshana Vicharaha, that means characteristics of earthquakes, meteorites, etc. Vastu Vicharaha, about architecture. Jalanveshana Vicharaha, exploration of water springs and all, because they are much needed in digging for the bore, for irrigation and all. Devalaya Pratimadi Nirmana Kramaha, how to construct a temple, how to install an idol, what should be the measurements, what gives the most aesthetic beauty along with the intended influence, etc. And Shekunadi Vicharaha, the science of omens, and Sharira Lakshanadi Vicharaha, the body parts and their association and cure and diseases based on Jyotish. These are the things that are dealt in the Jyotish. Jyotisha, as I said, is already infused into the every part of the Veda. So some of the modern science aspects in the ancient text, if you want to see, in the Upanishads commentary, Sri Shankaracharya, he says the following. Just like a body thrown up in the air, pulled down by the apana of earth. That means apana is a word used for the downward movement. And they have already known for many, many years it's as a force that there is something that is pulling objects down that which you throw into air. In the next section of, we are going to see how in the Vaiseshikan approach, these things are formalized as a science. In Aryabhatta's Laghava Gaurava theory, which is heliocentric theory, sorry for the typo there, he says, Aryabhatta says, just like a disciple does pradakshina around a guru. Pradakshina means revolving around a guru. Just like we in a mandir, we do the projection, right? We go around the mandir and come. Like that, Laghu Guru. Laghu means short, Guru means big. So the rule that Laghava Gaurava means the short-statured one revolves around the large-statured one, just like we see in the everyday life. The planets which are short-statured revolve around the sun. This is what Aryabhatta said many hundreds of years ago, which is heliocentric theory. In contrary, during which time the West was still thinking about geocentric theories. And whoever proposed about heliocentric theory was also hanged in the past in the West. But in India, we took it as a rule called Laghava Gaurava rule. Rigveda also states about Earth's rotation that it is said that sun neither sets nor rises, which means it is Earth's rotation that causes the rising and setting of the sun. That means even in the Vedic time, we know that it's not the Earth, but it's not the sun that is revolving, but the Earth that is rotating for cause of days and nights. These are some aspects which more we'll observe in the coming lectures. So Jyotisha uses terms like Bhugola, Brahmanda, etc. to show the spherical nature. Gola means a sphere, Anda means an oval shape. So spherical nature of planets, oval nature of universe, etc., which are currently accepted things in the science since 300, 400 years. But before that, the West was considering flat Earth models. Now you will know how beautiful our scientific approach was in the past. Most of the secrets lie in the Jyotish Shastra. So in summary, we have the 6 Vedangas that act as 6 keys to unlock the wisdom contained in each Veda and its literature. You have Shiksha, the key of intonation, which helps in preservation of the oral aspects of the Veda. Vyakarana, the key of grammar, aims at creating, preserving, and furthering of structured words and sentences. Nirukta, the key of etymology, gives an in-depth understanding of the root and family of words used in the Veda. Chandas, the key of prosody, with a structured 3-leveled hierarchy, sets the pretext and backdrop theme. Kalpa, the key of rituals, guides in all practical purposes of application of the Vedic wisdom in everyday life. And Jyotisha, the key of light, helps in understanding the complex web of interconnectedness of Earth and cosmos. You may write these things down if you want, because this is a summary slide of the whole chapter. Or you can take a screenshot if you wish. So some of the questions for this chapter are as follows. What is relevance of Vedangas in the context of Vedic repository? Comment on the statement, Vyakarana and Nirukta analyzes the same issue of analyzing the words and meanings. Of course, they address the same issue, but analyze in different ways. That is what I'm expecting you to answer here. What role is played by Shiksha in preserving the oral tradition of the Veda? Of course, these are the questions, some are taken from the textbook, as I often say. What is Chandas comprised of? And give few examples of Chandas used in Rig Veda. The Chandas we learned, right? Gayatri, Ushnik, Brihati, those are the things I want here. Write about the integral part played by Jyotisha in everyday life of most of the Indians who follow Vedic traditions. Explain how organization of a yajna and project management are similar in their execution. For this, you should refer to the IKS textbook. I think in the 3rd chapter, is it? Sorry, in the 2nd chapter, you'll find IKS in Action 2.1 about how yajna and project management are related. From there, I would like you to summarize and write the gist and little more adding your own words into it. So that's about the 6 Vedangas. To summarize the whole Vedic things into what is known as Vedic life, let us understand what is known as Pancha Maha Yajna. So the 5 grand rituals that suggest how Vedic life used to be are as follows. The very first is called Bhuta Yajna. Now, to to live a life. To live a life is for the betterment of yourself, your surroundings, and a harmonious existence with nature. Whenever you cause a ripple of selfish deed, it reacts in a way to auto shut down the act. For example, everyone in the world starts driving motor vehicles instead of walking, and the global warming increases to the peaks. What happens? The snow caps melts, submerges some of the lands, automatically cuts down the pollution because that's how the things are in nature. It's like a fuse exists in nature. You do something, the fuse breaks, and things go back to square one. But if you go back to square one, again, you'll have to reinvent the wheel, and again, the generations have to reinvent things. For this not to happen, a harmonious and balanced living is very much needed in life. For that, these grand rituals help you. The very first thing that Veda suggests is Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta means being. Bhu means to exist. So beings which exist are called Bhutas. Caring for all created beings. Took care of every living and non-living entity with element of love. A solution to the ecological imbalance in modern times is this Bhuta Yajna. Okay, caring for living elements, you might understand. What do you mean by caring for non-living elements? For example, you consider granite. We destroy mountains and mountains and mountains to get our stone. Is that necessary? So if you care, are mountains important? Mountains are also part of ecological balance because they give stability to the land around. They become home for many beings like birds and other animals which live in hilly areas. You destroy hills and mountains, you're destroying the ecological balance. So not only love towards the living, love towards non-living is also as much important in the Bhuta Yajna. The solution, it forms a solution because if you have this as a theme behind any industrial process or industrial starting that you have, then we'll be very careful in creating our rules for wastage disposal, pollution checks, and whatnot. Because we are we are driven by greed, we try to bribe and escape such rules. But instead, if you try to follow such rules, even though we incur certain loss, but compared to the grand scale of events, our economical loss is not even comparable. That element we are not yet recognizing, and we have to recognize, and they will recognize if they get acquainted with the concept like Bhuta Yajnas that our ancients were following. Then we have Manushya Yajna. Of course, living, non-living, everything is one category. Then humans are another category because out of everything, we give first importance to humans naturally. So caring for all human beings is utmost important, which comes as priority as well. Helping the needy, the orphans, unexpected guests, etc., are all come under Manushya Yajna. So this helps to improve social sustainability in a social construct. If in a society, no one opens the doors to strangers, will tourists and other people try to visit your place? No, right? But if you're welcoming, if you invite them, if you give hospitality, then they go back and tell, oh, I went to this place called Jaipur and it was so good. The people there are so friendly. Like that when they speak, that is what a social bond develops between different regions. So Manushya Yajna means helping the other humans, caring for them, and creating certain close bonds with one another. Next, we have Pitru Yajna. That means offering deep respects to the departed ancestors, remembering their good deeds and acting accordingly in their life. Not only the Vedic ritual thing of mantras and fire sacrifice, here Pitru Yajna means, first of all, look back to your ancestral origins. See what great deeds they have done. Ask your grandmother, grandfather the stories of their grandparents and so on and so forth. Take some qualities that you think you can imbibe in this life and start practicing and following them. Be something different and unique than what most of the society is going today, so that your own friends and family will start learning from you, because you will be the key part in influencing them. This is the real breakthrough yajna, because it is your behavior and your actions that bring fame to the whole lineage of people who are being born in your family name, we can say. Then we have what is known as Deva Yajna. I remember speaking about the Devaruna and all. Here, Deva is the word you can coin for the natural principles around you. So destroying the atmosphere, polluting, keeping your room untidy, having unhealthy food habits, unhealthy sleeping habits. All these are destroying the Deva Yajnas in your life. So following Deva Yajna means maintaining good health, good sleeping order, good eating order, good rapport with your cleanliness, etc. That is Deva Yajna. So offering gratitude for Devas for what they have bestowed, because all the elements are bestowed by them, without which we don't exist. Everything is borrowed from nature. Hence, respecting nature is one of the important elements that is conveyed in the Deva Yajna. Then Brahma Yajna, that means either you learn the art of Brahma Vidya or the Veda and preserve and pass it on, or don't destroy it with useless commentaries and statements. Like one of the commentaries I showed, right, from the Kaland, who destroyed the whole purport of the Veda. Like that, many people have destroyed the purport. You see Max Muller's writings, you see H.H. Wilson's writings on Vishnu Purana. Many people have destroyed. If at all in English authors who have preserved the Indian heart in translating Sanskrit is, one of such authors is John Woodruff. He has a pen name Arthur Avalon, who commented upon the whole tantric literature. So he brought out the many manuscripts from palm leaves in Sanskrit and commented in English upon. In fact, you know, that guy, the John Woodruff person, he's like the Indian soul in a Western body, because he was appointed as a British judge in the area of West Bengal, I think, or Odisha, if I don't know. I don't remember actually. Odisha maybe. But then, in search of the truth and all, his life slowly led him to Calcutta. There, he learned about the Tantra under a tutelage of few gurus. How did he learn? He changed his whole attire. He concealed his head, except for the part where the priests held their hair. No, there he has that hair alone, and rest of the head was shaven. He wore the dhoti. He did not have anything to do with his British origins. He became completely Indianized in the way of attire, language, and behavior, and his heart became one with India. There's a beautiful book by him called Is India Civilized? Basically, he responds to many questions raised by the British and other people in those days newspapers and insulting India. We should be shameful of not knowing him, because such a person defended our country against the bashings of unknown Western people. If you read that book, Is India Civilized? You will yourself feel, oh my God, our country is so great. Why haven't I known this until now? For that, of course, you should see the broader picture of country and your life in it. There is one author whose translations I really like personally. Now, distinctive features of the Vedic life. If at all I have to summarize, this is how Vedic people live, by understanding their purport of the Veda, their expressions in the Veda. It can be categorized as follows. First, Vedas extol a living full of energy, enthusiasm, hopes, desires, and innovations based on necessities. This is very crucial. Innovation should be based on necessities, first of all. No necessities, you just don't invent for invention's sake. Right now, what is the scenario? You see every year the companies like Samsung, Apple are developing minor modification and developing new varieties of phones. And you see after 3-4 years, the software makes us forcibly dump the old hardware and buy the new. What is happening to the old hardware in this scenario? When they're tweaking and creating the desire in us to buy, and people who fall prey for it and are buying new things every year, what is happening to the old debris? After a few years, the piling will be so heavy that I don't know what the humanity is going to do with that much garbage on the earth. But instead, if it is only for innovation which is based on necessities, that is focused on every 5 years or 6 years, you can discover or release some new product. Until then, you give gap for the humanity that is growing to use, digest, and use it for a longer time. Instead of looking for prolonging the life of what we have, we are often looking to give out many new things, forgetting what we have already in the hand. That is one flaw in the human existence in this era right now. But in the Vedic times, that was not the case. Everything was necessity based. Desires were there, but of selfless desires. Everything was hopeful, enthusiasm. They were filled with energy. There was no melancholy. There was no sadness. When I say no sadness, it means not that people are all smiling like this. It means even when they are sad, they have the guts to pull themselves beyond that sadness and live for some proper cause, which is not existing right now. As you can see, there are many reports where people hurt each other, people hurt themselves and whatnot on walls, petty things. Remember, Vedic seers never asked us to leave off everything we have and run to forests. They want us to live life to the fullest, but the fullest definition means a symbiotic, synergetical, and harmonious living with the nature, not with everything that we desire. That is not the fullest in the Vedic term. The second one is that a balanced approach between the material and non-material association is often recommended. It neither recommends only material, it doesn't recommend either only non-material. Here non-material means you can say spiritual side. It doesn't ask us to sit in a room, close our doors and do bhajan of a god or do mantra of a god without speaking to the outer world. No, it doesn't say that. Nor it doesn't ask you to get involved in a business, do everything forgetting what the concept of your life purpose means. An all-round development in physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual domains is sought after with a proper balance in place. Without this balance, one will fall prey for every little thing in the world, and not only they, the people associated with them, everyone is interconnected with some web of attachments in one way or the other. You might have heard about butterfly effect, right? Butterfly flapping its wings somewhere can create a tornado somewhere. In that way, we are all connected with certain links, and that links will get polluted if you destroy your own life's sanctity. Hence, a balanced approach is often suggested in the Vedic lifestyle. A harmonious, sustained, symbiotic living with nature is highly advocated due to recognition of mutual dependency. The reason, again, we think we eat food and the food is digested. How many of you know that the food is digested because of the good bacteria in our intestines? So, are we not dependent on the good bacteria? That is why they say taking antibiotics will also kill the good bacteria. Hence, again, to restore our health, it will take some time after the antibiotic course. So, if our normal everyday living, eating itself is dependent on teeny tiny bacteria that you don't see, imagine the grand life scale of the whole humanity on the earth itself. It is mutually dependent with nature, of course, in many ways. It's like if you sit on a branch and cut the branch you're sitting, you will fall along with the branch. That is what we are right now in the verge of. And that is why many ecological movements are happening to educate the so-called billionaires who are establishing so many factories or industries to think in terms of ecology and environment so that without hurting the needs of the humans, we can approach or proceed in a balanced way to retain our scientific rigor. That is what the Vedic life was. The harmonious, sustained, symbiotic living with nature was always advocated. If you see whatever items they used in a yajna, it was all eco-friendly. They give you prasad, that's a food. They eat, all the eating plates were either metal which you reuse every time or were made of dried leaves, which when you throw, the cows and other animals will eat. The whole cycle of existence was all mutually dependent. So there is, as such, there is no pollution happening in that existence of cycle. But now we use plastic everywhere. We use those materials which cannot be decomposed that easily, and we throw them away as if it's our birthright that we have to throw it. The moment we throw and they get accumulated, it destroys ourselves because the nature around us is spoiled. The air's oxygen levels are spoiled. The bacteria around us increases, harmful bacteria, and so on and so forth. Right? 1 minute. Yeah. Then we have yajna was a central theme of lifestyle. The attitude in every occasion of life was of self-sacrifice. As I said, yajna, the word itself means a self-sacrificial way of living. Yajna doesn't mean fire sacrifice, that is homa. The word yajna means a selfless sacrifice. Therefore, the attitude that in every occasion of life, if you are selfless and trying to help everything around you, for the betterment of everything around you, that is called the life of yajna. And in yajna, Agni takes the prominent role amongst the deities as he stands as a gateway between different realms. And therefore, many mantras are dedicated to Agni in the Vedas. And again, Agni has two meanings: one, the fire that you see, and one, the energy that is inside you, because Anganam Nihitaha Agni. That energy which lurks in every nook and corner of your body that makes things animate. So the life principle is Agni. Hence, they extol Agni in that way. The ultimate tenets of living of the Veda are Satyam, Ritam, Dharma. What is Satyam? Sun rises in the east. It's a truth. But it is also a grander truth. It's a rhythm. There's a rhythm to it. Like sun always rises in the east. The Dharma is the sun as looked from the earth should always rise in the east. Therefore, Satyam, Ritam, Dharma are, you can think like three different varieties of the truth in nature. But Satyam is like a statement is a true or false. The roses are blue, maybe true, maybe false. But Ritam is something, the closest English word is rhythm. So something that is periodical in its occurrence, like seasons. They have a rhythm for it. Uh, for your everyday wakings and sleepings, there is a cycle or rhythm for it. That is rhythm. Beyond that is dharma, that is the eternal laws. The dharma of earth is to attract, dharma of fire is to burn, dharma of your acids in your stomach is to cause hunger, etc. If you destroy these tenets of living, if you're untruthful, if you're unrhythmic, if you're unlawful, then we cause upon ourselves the pains, the causes of the pains, which will destroy the very living style of our existence. So these are the five tenets of distinctive features or five themes of Vedic life. So they extol full life of full energy, a balanced approach to material and non-material, a harmonious living with nature, selfless sacrifice as the core of the life, and Satyam, Ritam, Dharma as the three tenets of life. This, in summary, is the whole of basic elements. In the next weeks, what we'll be learning is knowledge through ages, basically the philosophical system. I will tell you what we will be doing in the next few lectures and then I'll stop. So the systems of philosophy that we are going to discuss lie the following. They are called darshanas. There are Vedic and non-Vedic darshanas. The Vedic darshanas are Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. And in non-Vedic, we have Jaina, Buddha, and Charvaka. These are basically the philosophical systems which have been over a period of time, the Indian knowledge systems is grouped into. By knowing these, we will understand the tenets of India in different lenses and different dimensions. And this grand tree of philosophy doesn't exist anywhere else. And we are going to see the finer points of this in the coming lectures. I stopped there. Noor, was everything okay in today's lecture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If someone wants to speak, they can raise hands and I can unmute them, or let me see unmuting everyone. Allow mic for attendees. Okay, I think you can unmute yourselves to speak. And after 5 minutes, we can go. I don't know, try unmuting. Any other person? Yeah, it should be ready for you. If anyone wants to say something, Noor, do you want to speak something?
No,
Somebody
sir.
point. Come on, speak. Why no?
Sir, today we learned about Jyotisha, the science of light. Sir, it is this question is actually my personal question.
Ask me.
Is it
Yes,
really
please ask.
worth it to consider this thing? Means I don't believe in these things, sir. It's my personal opinion.
Yes, you don't believe in what you know. You understand my point. Someone asked Pythagoras, do you believe in God? Pythagoras said, I don't believe in the God whom you think it is God, but I do believe in God. Do you understand his statement? So you have an
Yes, sir.
opinion of Jyotisha based on your interaction with the astrologers whom I said as who do only predictive sciences, right? I can't
Yes,
even
sir.
call it science, who do predictions. But as I pointed out, Jyotisha is mostly astronomy and the effects of the astronomy on the beings in a larger scale. You can't deny that if you observe it in a statistical sense.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, in that larger sense, astrology or Jyotisha is one of the wonderful keys you have. But in the lowest demeaned scale of what you said, like people say this will happen, wo dosha hai, and whatnot,
Yes, sir.
there is a grain of truth to it, but more husk will be there, which you need to peel it off based on your understanding. And in your life, how much have you explored of the Jyotish? Only this much, right? Have you spent more than 10 years learning?
No, sir. Definitely not.
So unless we spend that much time, how can I definitely say, it's all idiotic? So unless you
Sir,
spend
we are
time, you don't
surrounded.
have the, we are
Yes,
surrounded
sir.
by the husk, and husk needs to be removed.
Yes, sir.
Remember, have you ever observed fire and smoke? Fire will be little, but smoke will be too much. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
By looking at smoke, you can definitely know there is a fire. Yes or no? But by
Yes.
looking at smoke, you can't say that itself, fire is not at all bright. What, sir? You told me fire is bright, but smoke is so dark. You can't say that. Because through smoke, you need to catch the fire. That means if there is a duplicate, there must have been an original for the duplicate. So look for the original. That is my answer to you.
Yes, sir.
Is that does clarify?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else can unmute and ask? Or any other question? No? You ask good questions. I
No,
wish I
sir.
was
No
there
other
personally
questions.
to interact with you guys.
Yes, sir.
No other questions. Okay. You all can leave then. Bye-bye. Hari Om. We will meet next week. We have 2 more sessions. And sorry for the balloons. That's a Zoom effect. 2 more sessions. And in the 2 more sessions, we'll deal with philosophy and sciences. Okay, I'll stop the recording and leave the meeting. You all can leave.